Hey folks, welcome back to another episode here on the Mr. Analyst channel. Of course, we have a very special show today because there's a lot of stuff that was going on over the weekend that is intriguing in the world of track and field. Of course, there was the CARIFTA Trials in Kingston. There's one in Barbados, but for some reason, I can't find anybody from Barbados to join us to talk about that. So we'll probably do that another time, if at all possible. And then the J3 has named a team, a 32-member team, to the World Athletic Championships, World Indoors, Championships. And subsequently, 3 people pulled up: Melena Marshall, Chanoya Douglas, and Nikisha Price. We will talk about that during the course of this session, which is going to last for me about half an hour, a little bit more than that. And just to get a sense of what's happening as the teams prepare for champs, of course, the CARIFTA Games, and of course, the World Indoor Championships in Poland in just about, 2 weeks' time? Less than 2 weeks' time. So with me is my very esteemed panel. And let me introduce the lady first, because the first time she's joining me, and I really want her to be back more often. Melena Helias. So you know her as Trackside with Mel, but she does fantastic work talking to our athletes, getting our stories out to us, to the world, actually, because she does writing for Il Creep and other publications as well, and does a fantastic job. She gets people that I can't even get. That's how good she is. Along with her is Janelle Smith. Of course, Donald needs no introduction. World famous, and I said world famous. I'm not being tried here. This is someone who was an in-stadium announcer at the Olympic Games. You can't beat that. And of course, the world famous again, Yadi Sports, a man who covers, I don't know how he does it, but he covers everything, everywhere, every time. I swear he has multiple personalities and people that he runs about in, because I don't know how he does it, but kudos to you here, Dwayne, and of course, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
But let's start with the latest news. The J3 has named a 32-member team to the World Indoor Championships in Poland from March 20th to March 23rd. That team included some of the people who we expected to be on the team, like Akeem Blake, of course, and Brennan Liston, and of course, the outstanding Janelle Smith, who's running really well this year. On the men's side, they've named, of course, Akeem Blake, Brian Lavelle, and Kishane Thompson. Something I wanted to ask Donald about, are you allowed to enter 3 people in an event in World Indoors, or is it 2?
It's usually 2, but this time around, Akeem benefited from being the winner of the World Indoor Tour. So he got a wild card, so to speak. So he's the quote-unquote 3rd person. So it's normally 2 per country, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, that's why my recalling. And of course, they named a women's 4x4 team that has since been scrapped because Nikisha Price and Chanoya Douglas have withdrawn. We'll discuss some of those issues as well. The men's team, Delana Kennedy and a number of other guys who we'll talk about as well during the course of this conversation. But let's start with Chanoya Douglas, guys, because she is in the news in some big ways, wherein she ran 11:06, which is phenomenally fast, and of course 22.58, which puts 2 records under threat for champs if she competes at champs. And of course, Dwayne will explain why I just said that later on. Mel, let's start with you. 1092 is the national under 20 record held by Alana Reid. She was at National Stadium on Saturday. And of course, the 22.50 from Brianna Williams that was set back in 2018 in Tampere, Finland, when she won the double at the World Under 20 Championships. Based on what you're seeing, and of course, you are the eyes that puts a perspective on things that we don't necessarily see here in Jamaica because we're so used to these guys. You've been here for a number of years now, but certainly you still have a more peripheral perspective on things. What did you see from Chanoya Douglas that excites you about, based on how she performed on Saturday?
Good evening, everybody, and thank you, Leighton, for having me. I think these past seasons, since we've had the first top 11 in history in champs with Alana Reid in 2023, I didn't see anyone that I thought was capable of doing sub 11 again at Champs. And since 11:06 from Chanoya Douglas the other day, I think we might be seeing another sub 11 at Champs in the next 2 weeks. So yes, this is very, very exciting. She also looks good on the 200, and I hope she does compete at Champs. So let's see.
When you write these stories for the Creep, for example, I know you did a piece on the Clayton twins. What has been the reaction from the readers? Are they how keen is their interest in what is happening in Jamaica in terms of our track and field, especially at the junior level?
I think most people don't realize that Jamaica is no longer just a sprint factory, but also very good at field events now. And I wouldn't say people really pay attention to the junior athletes that much. It's really once they perform well as senior athletes, they start to realize how much potential there is.
Okay, so let me go from beauty to brain. Donald Smith, you heard the perspective. Heard the perspective. No, this is not to slight Melena, because Mel is incredible. But I just said that to
try to save yourself.
No. It's a transition, you know. But sometimes the foot gets stuck in the mouth. But Donald, I mean, we're talking about Chanoya Douglas in a real way here. Jamaicans had, especially in the last 20 years, I mean, a lot of people talk about Usain Bolt and Johan Blakes, but Jamaicans had a very strong tradition with female sprinting for as long as you can remember. I mean, Artie has dominated for 2 decades. Juliet Cuthbert, Veronica Campbell Brown, Shelley Ann Fraser Price, Elaine Thompson Hero. And, you know, we have people coming up through the system. It's almost like a conveyor belt of not just quality, but world-class quality. What are you seeing with this young lady? I mean, we've seen her run the 1, the 2, the 4. We've seen her be good at all of them. We've seen her run at CARIFTA and dominate in each event that she competes. I think probably the toughest competition she's had in recent years was with Sabrina Dockery. But this year, there is something that's clicking with Coach Smythe and, of course, Chanoya Douglas that makes her that much better than everybody else. What's your thoughts on what you saw on the weekend?
Well, you know, let me start with something that I observed. I think it was on Friday. Her start over 100 meters has significantly improved. Quick out of the blocks. No longer looks like a quarter miler. In terms of how she gets out of the blocks. And I think that's at least one improvement that I've seen so far in her sprinting. You know, added to the fact that her endurance remains from being a quarter miler, you know, I think that is also having a massive impact in 2026. 100 meters, 11:06. I'm going to be honest, I was a bit surprised, even though it's almost probably under 2 weeks now to Champs. I would have expected that sort of time in another 2 weeks. Not necessarily no. If she had run 11:1, between 11:16 and 11:20, I would be saying, yeah, man, she's in that space. But clearly showing if she runs 11:06 here at CARIFTA Trials and potentially still not even fully unloaded, you know, that sub 11 could definitely be in sight. However, having seen that 11:06 Friday evening, I was geared up to see the national junior record go in the 200. I as a matter of fact, Davion, who was my co-announcer for the 3 days of the trials, I said to him that, well, I know you did the heats of the 200, but I'm taking the finals, because in my mind, I'm expecting a national under 20 record. She did get a personal best, 22.58, 1/100th of a second of her previous PB, you know, but it shows the type of form that she's in. I will I will hasten to say though that at the start of the season, there's a young lady from Edin Allen, Alex Henry, who is from Trinidad and Tobago, who has beaten Chanoya this season. I've not seen them run together since that time.
No, they haven't.
And
Yeah,
and I'm sure both of them have improved over that time period. So I'm hoping that those two will push each other to get below that 11 seconds in the 100.
Dwayne, you had an interesting off-camera suggestion that Chanoya Douglas might not be eligible to run at champs this year. I had a conversation with Keith Wellington yesterday. No, yesterday. When was the team announced? Yeah, was it yesterday? Yeah.
Yesterday.
And he didn't.
Yesterday.
Because I asked him. Yeah, I asked him whether or not she could make it. What's the thinking behind? Because as a member of the J3 what his thinking is in terms of letting her, considering that champs is so close to the end of the World Championships, because the World Indoor Championships ends on the 23rd of March. Champs begin on the 24th.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't make it sound to me like she wasn't unable to run at champs. So tell us what you've been hearing and how valid is that claim?
Right. Well, it's unofficial. I think it's a coach from a different school who was suggesting that she may not be eligible. But when I spoke with her after she ran that fantastic 100-meter time, she suggested that she'd be a champ. So I am thinking that the coach, was suggesting that she may not be eligible for champs is not aware of her full situation because she's transferred to Holland. I think that has had people speculating that she might not be, but I would think that the transfer would have been done with the understanding that she would be able to run, because it would make such a decision at this key moment in her career and have her sit out a year at champs, especially where she is right now. And when you look at what she's moved from the 400 meters down to the 1 and the 2, as Donald said, her start is different. And you would know, Leighton, you ran track, that the start for the 100 meters is completely different from the start for the 400 meters. And that is what has elevated her sprinting. Right. And when she came over the finish line, she didn't know the time that she did. And I said to her, I mentioned to her what that time was. And so she ran to look at the clock. When she looked at the clock and she saw the time, she said, "Sir, is that real?" Because she asked her coach, because she wanted to be sure. And then she just took off and she ran and she jumped all over him. She was so excited by the time. And so she didn't know where she was, but she knows now where she is. So you can imagine that she goes back to training focused on going after Alana's time, because that's what I would do. Now, I would be thinking that if I'm there 2 weeks ahead of champs, then I want to put on a show on the second day of champs, which is the 100-meter finals. So that must be in her mind to go to champs, to put on a show and to go after that record, because that's what track athletes live for. You go after records. You track and field athletes. A part of winning is also a part of getting records. You know that it won't last forever, but it's nice to have your name in the book at one point in time where people can refer to a point and say, well, at this moment in time, Chanoya held the records. I know that she'll be looking at that, and at champs, she will be pressed. So you imagine that with the level of competition that we expect, that Chanoya will do something special at champs. And, I'm so looking forward to the 100 meters, because all of them, all classes, promise to be special.
And I think she managed the pressure pretty well, because based on what I've seen these past years, whether at CARIFTA or champs, she never disappoints in the finals, or I don't recall anything disappointing. So I think we should expect big things in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, and she's look. One of the things I like about her, and it's from a distance, it seems like she has a warrior type mentality. She has that competitive edge about her that I think all athletes should have. I think some athletes are just way too nice. One of the instructive things is that her coach, Garth Smythe, said that he believes that she's capable of 10.8. Is that something that you guys believe is possible?
It would be amazing to see
not
that.
Not immediately.
Yeah.
But
I don't think she's in 10.8 right now, but who knows? Maybe by the end of the summer, maybe she goes to the Commonwealth Games and does something pretty amazing.
Or
under 20, right? I'd be shocked.
Yeah,
I want to see her at the Commonwealth Games.
Would be very shocking, but sub 11.
I want to see her do that at the Commonwealth Games. because there would be a lot of top athletes from the Commonwealth. You talk about the Brits. I would love to see her match up against the Brits and other Commonwealth countries and do something special and show those senior athletes who've been running around that, we have another emerging talent that's coming to, shake up everything.
Well, it seems to me like both records are under threat. I think Brenna's record is definitely under threat because the thing is, Dwayne, and it's something that Donald alluded to. I don't think she would have been tapered yet for CARIFTA Trials. She would have been tapered. Probably that tapering starts, 10 days before champs. And if that's the case, then I don't know, 22-4, 1088 is very possible. But let's move on because we have a lot of things to talk about. Well, one more point to make though. We forgot to talk. We got so caught up talking about the excellence of the athlete. It makes sense that she would have been withdrawn from the World Indoor Team, given, as we mentioned before, the meet ends on the Sunday and champ starts 24 hours later. So it wouldn't make sense for her to be there. And that's a situation where, but in the interest of the athlete, because look, people think you sit on a plane and that's it. But your body's also traveling at 500 or 600 miles an hour. It wears on you. And then I've never been to Poland, but I'm assuming that going to Poland from Jamaica requires maybe 1 or 2 connecting flights, depending on the tickets that you book. That in itself, I've sat in an airport for 14 hours already in Fort Lauderdale, and it was not pleasant. So the reality is that, it would make sense for her to withdraw from the championships to participate at champs, because the fatigue could be a factor and she could end up getting hurt and ruin what is so far been an outstanding season. But since we're on the World Indoor Championships, let's talk about the team a little bit before we go down to get back to the CARIFTA Trials, because that's the most recent thing. When you looked at the team, I'm assuming that you've seen the 32-member team now, with the withdrawals of Chanoya Douglas and Nikisha Price and Rivaldo Marshall. What do you make of the team? Is it a strong team? Is it a team that's going to come back with medals, or is it going to be a team that is participation only?
So I checked back, and last year Jamaica got 4 medals at World Indoors. None of them were gold, by the way. 2 silvers, 2 bronze. I think this year there will definitely be medals at the 60 meters flat with Kishin Thompson, Brian Lev, especially on the male side, and even Janelle Smith has been looking so good this season. I'm not too sure about the other events, to be honest. Maybe the women 4x4 would have been a chance of medal, but because of the withdrawal, there will be no team for that, really.
What's your thought? Not necessarily who are the medalists, but who do you think are people who are likely to perform well?
So decent squad selection by Jamaica based on the athletes who would have been available, as you know, from an indoor perspective, a number of our athletes that have that indoor experience are collegiate athletes, and they would have NCs coming up. So would have been your pool for selection has certainly narrowed. When you look at the 60 meters flat on both the male and the female side, expecting as always that we should have at least finalists in both events. My only drawback on the women's side is that even though Janelle has been running very well this season, a lot of the 60s that she has done has been outdoors. And we know you can't really compare the outdoor 60-meter time to the indoor 60-meter time, because a 7:06 outdoor, for example, could be a 7:20 indoors or 7:19 indoors. So it's not the best comparison that we can use, but she is in the shape of her life, and for me, she should be factored. Outside of that, I think we more than likely should equal the amount of medals that we got last year. And most of those medals, in my mind, could be coming from the field. The triple jump with Jordan Scott, he's ranked 2nd in the world this year. For the last 2 seasons or so, he has been knocking on the door. Had some mishaps in Tokyo, didn't medal. But I think based on where his trajectory is taking him, he potentially could be on the podium in the triple. Similarly, in the men's long jump, McLeod and Gale. McLeod would have taken bronze 2024. He has that world indoor experience. And we know Tajay Gale, whenever he's on song, whenever he decides to show up, he can very well trouble the party with the platform. So I'm expecting that if we are to get medals, majority could be off the track. I don't think, based on the personnel that we're sending in the track events, outside of the 60 meters, that, it's a easy thing to say, yes, we're going to medal. You look at the 60-meter hurdles, for example, with Megan Simmons, I think Onika Wilson on the men's side, Demario Prince, and Jerome, I think.
Jerome Campbell, yeah.
Jerome Campbell, good athletes, running quite well this season, but medal hopefuls, maybe not. And then there are 2 other field eventers that I personally would want to see them finish in the top 5. I think they will be in the top 8. Nia Long in the women's long jump and Lamar Distin in the women's high jump. But these are the indoors. It has a lot to do with experience. One question I would have for the J3 selection committee though is why Shaneke Anderson, for example, who would have run a new personal best at the Gibson McCook Relays over 400 meters, was not added as an individual 400-meter runner instead of just being named to the 4x4 team. Clearly, she's in good form this season. And with Nikisha Price pulling out, it would have been at least one representative and maybe even saved us pulling out of the 4x4s as well.
Look here, you mentioned Lamar Distin. Lamar Distin has been struggling with her approach for the last 2 seasons. But so far this season, she's gone 192, 194, and 196.
Yeah.
Now,
and a very good attempt at 197. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's top 3. No, I could be wrong, but I think it's top 3 in the world this year. So I think if she continues to improve at the rate at which we've seen her for the last 3 weeks, I do believe that she has a strong possibility of being on the podium. Because now that she's finding, because I watched her jump the last 2 meets, one in, was it Czech Republic? Well, it's in Europe. I think Slovakia and Slovakia, yeah. And her approach, she's a lot more confident in her approach now. So maybe she does jumps 198 and ends up on the podium. It's not out of the realm of possibility. I just want to add though that I agree with you, the 60-meter hurdles. Jerome Campbell has done 7:48 this year, and Demario Prince 7:46 at the conference championships last week. So I think based on what we've seen, I think a couple of guys have gone 7:37 and a 7:42. I think, yeah. So it's a hurdles, and I think with the hurdles,
there's always that element that, mishaps can happen and the door could be left open for somebody else who was not necessarily a favorite to medal getting in on the podium. So, there's hope. But if you're being objectively realistic, if you get 4 medals, I think that would be good based on the team.
And before I come to Dwayne, I just wanted to mention something. I agree with the Janelle Smith situation, because Johnny has been running well. Nobody disputes that. 7:07 outdoors and 7:06 at GC Foster a few weeks ago. Right now, I'm thinking off the top of my head, JCS Sears 7:03, and these are indoor times we're talking about. I mean, literally indoor times. Dasso 6:99, Julian 6:99. And they were even 7:01, I think it was, or 7:02. It's going to be, unless Stephen Francis knows something that we don't know. And because she ran 7:12 in was it Stockholm and then 7:17 in Germany.
Yeah.
But that does not get her into the final, I think. But
no.
I think the experience will be good for her. And I think if she gets a time like if she can lower her personal best indoors to like 7:04, 7:03, somewhere in there, I think
she'll be in the mix.
Yeah, she'll be in the mix, and she'd consider it a victory, even if she doesn't end up on the podium, because her progression this year has been, well, since last season actually, has been phenomenal. So, Dwayne, your thoughts on the team itself?
I think it's pretty much the best that we could have done. And I always temper my expectations when it comes to the World Indoors and Indoor Championships, because we don't have a lot of athletes who have a whole lot of experience running indoors. And at the time that these championships come about, it's people who basically are running outdoors, but running the short sprints we're sending to these championships because we don't have any indoor facilities. So I don't get too excited and don't have any great expectations. I just like to see our athletes participating at these championships. But I don't have great expectations. I take what I get. From indoor championships, I take what I get, and I appreciate that the athletes go out there and do their best, because that's what they always do. And our expectations usually come from the men because we are powerful in the short sprints, and we hope to get on the podium, and we've seen it happen from time to time. So, I sit and I watch, but I don't have any great expectations, and I'm perfectly happy with whatever it is that they do. And there's one person who isn't on the team who has not been spoken about, but I want to make a note. Lavanya Williams, that little dynamo, she has come second to the big athletes maybe 3 or 4 times this season, and she's had a victory.
To beat Elena JC.
Yeah.
Right. There you go. That's the win. She's somebody that I have been keen on since she was in high school in class 2, where she started to really show her form. Class 3, she was there. Then class 2,
right?
Class 1, yes.
Russies, then William Nib, yeah.
And then William Nib. In class 1, she had injuries, so she didn't perform to her full potential, but she isn't going away. She's here, and she's mentally strong. She's very strong. She's somebody that I speak to a lot, and I'm hopeful for what her current form will take her into when we get to the outdoor season, the 100 meters. I'm really hopeful for what she will do. But as far as Janelle goes, she's had such a career that's riddled with injuries. And last year when she made the team, I remember going over to her and speaking with her and, being so happy for her that she made the team. And then she got the glory leg at the World Championships to finish the race and to help Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce win her last international medal, women's athlete and women's athlete. So it was a great moment for her, and she's continued from there with where her season is now. So I'm just very, very happy for Janelle, and I hope that she will have a very good outdoor season this season. I'm looking forward to that more than.
Dwayne jumped out for a second here. I just wanted to add, Johnny, but also Brenna Liston is listed in the 60 as well. She's run well indoors, first year as a pro. And of course, Lance Brahman, I remember when she ran at, was it Melrose, where Lance Brahman was saying that, she's coming along well. Yeah. And I mean, she's run what, 7:03 when she was at LSU. If she can get back there, which is not unlikely, she could probably be in the mix, I mean, in real terms. And I remember that race with Julian Alfred, and Julian ran 6:99 and Jason Sears ran 7:03. She was third in 7:07, I think it was.
7:07, yeah.
Yeah, so the reality is that, we haven't seen her for a couple of weeks now, so maybe they've been working on things and maybe lightening her load a little bit to go to World Indoors. So maybe she could be, if there's a spoiler in terms of the podium, it probably could be Brenna Liston. Yeah, so that's a possibility.
And regarding Smith, I think she's unsponsored. So even if she doesn't medal, I think making it to the final would increase her chances of being sponsored again, which I hope for her.
You mean Janelle? Yeah, I agree, and I think it's something that I'm hoping, because when she was sponsored, she had a raft of injuries that prevented her from being at her best. So, I mean, these sponsors, it's, life is such a strange thing. When you have the sponsors and that injury intervenes, and you have no control over it, because she couldn't have controlled that car running into the back of her car. and having a back injury and shoulder injuries in the ensuing years. So this is probably her redemption moment at 30, because she turned 30 in January, that she could probably have a few good years under her belt still, because her body hasn't taken that much beating over the past few years because of, she couldn't lift as much as she wanted. She couldn't do her cleans. So she wasn't as strong as she wanted to be. So the opportunity now presents itself for her to have a good back end of her career, so to speak, maybe the next 4 to 5 years. There's a World Championships coming up next year. There's a Olympics coming up in 2028. So maybe she capitalizes on those moments and makes it makes it worth her while, because she deserves it. I think we've seen her talent from when she was at Wilmers. Then she went to Auburn. I mean, people forget that she was a member of that 4x1 team that won gold in 2019, along with Natalia White and Shelley. And was it first or the fourth person? It wasn't one of the Clayton twins.
No,
Would say Natasha Morrison.
don't remember.
It was Natasha Morrison. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, it probably was. Yeah, that foursome that won gold in Doha in 2019. Dwayne is back with us, and it looked like him go take a shower and change and all him. So this.
Leighton, before I get back
to different part of the
Dwayne,
house had connectivity issues.
before I get back to Dwayne, though, one of the things I wanted to point out with the selections, something that jumped out at me is the reserved athlete in the 60 meters. So women, they have Tina Clayton as a reserve, but her sister Tia has run faster. So I don't know if there is an error on World Athletics side or the G3 selection sheet, but that kind of look a bit strange to me. That Tina is listed as a reserve as opposed to her sister who has gone faster, Tia.
Yeah, it's one of those strange things, because I honestly don't think the J3 is on a selection policy rather than a random one for World Indoors. I spoke to an athlete this evening who said that they were not. Somebody's had some background noise going. They were not invited, so to speak. They were told that they were on the list, and but they wanted to go to Worlds, so they're at Worlds. But my information, for example, is something that we mentioned at the top. Rivaldo Marshall is unable to travel. Based on what I'm hearing, it's some visa issues that has to be sorted. So that's one of the reasons why he withdrew. We already knew that Chanoya Douglas was not involved because she had that situation with Champs.
Leighton, I'm hearing
And
a
of
feedback.
course-
I'm not hearing it clearly.
Yeah, I don't know where the feedback is coming from.
Coming to it.
You need to have both.
From me? All right, hold on a second. Let me work on that.
Yeah. And of course, then the situation with Nikisha Price, I'm not able to determine. I tried to reach out to her coach today, but I haven't gotten a response. Yeah, I haven't gotten a response, so I don't know what her situation is. But I know Rivaldo Marshall is unable to travel. And of course, Chanoya Douglas, we already spoke about the conflict with Champs. That makes that a difficult situation for her. And when I spoke to her coach today, he said she was withdrawing, or had been withdrawn. So, so there's that.
Yeah,
All right,
Sharika
so-
Jackson was the fourth person in 2019.
Yeah, Sharika Jackson. How could I forget that? Yeah, second best combined sprinter of all
All
time.
of us.
How can I? Yeah. So, yeah, but but the thing about it is that to wrap this section of it, I think the team is a team that, even if they are not medalists, I think they will benefit from the experience of running at World Indoors. I think Brandon Bell told me yesterday, or was it Sunday, that he would have loved to have, to go to World Indoors, and he's on the team. I think working on his start and getting improving those phases for the 100 is obviously something that they're working on. And even though he did say it to me yesterday, Sunday, sorry, like he loves the 400, sorry, which is kind of weird, but that's brand level for you. But yeah, so his situation is that I think it'll be a good experience for him. Akeem Blake has won medals at World Indoors already, bronze last time out. So
2024.
yeah, so for me, if there's somebody who ends up on the podium in Poland in the 60 meter men, it probably will be him, because he has the experience. And he's been running well. I mean, he ran 6:40 something outdoors last weekend, but that was a 2.3 wind. But I'm assuming that when he's tapered, or if Michael lightens the load, I mean, it's not even a full taper. He probably will be right 6'4", 6'3", possibly 6'3" shape for World Indoors in 2 weeks. So let's see. All right, so we've been through the team. We don't have, I mean, we could have gone through more, but I'm trying to move along as quickly as possible because we still have a lot to talk about in terms of the CARIFTA trials. We've spoken about Chanoya Douglas already. Let's jump now and talk about the under-20 boys, especially because we saw two really outstanding performances in both the under-20 boys 100 and the under-20 boys 200 in terms of Raquel Reed and, of course, the young man from Millennium, Sanjay Seymour. Mel, let's go to you. You had a chat with him on Sunday. You tell me what he said and how do you think he will fare at the CARIFTA Games and how well he performed at the CARIFTA trials.
So I wanted to know what his favorite event was, and he told me the 200 because, of course, he loves to compare himself with Usain Bolt, who attended the same school, William Ibb. And I also wanted to know what he's looking forward to the most this season, because there's so much for the juniors, and he said it's World Under 20 in Eugene this summer. For me, seeing this kind of performances from junior athletes I can't get used to it. It's always something. It's always something incredible to see that level of performances every season, every weekend, every season, and it's hard to believe that they're still so young. So that was very, very impressive.
Dwayne, Raquel Reed is a freak. I mean, when you look at him, what you see is, you just heard Mel mention Bolt. In a way, he reminds me of you saying he's tall, he's rangy. He has that look about him. And of course, Sanjay Seymour as well. When you look at both of them, are they the next generation? Remember, Oblique is still here at 24. Kishin is still here at 24. And level is 21 or 22. These guys are coming up fast based on... the reason why I say this is because just a few years ago, after Bolt retired, everybody was up in arms about Jamaica not producing a next wave of sprinters. And here we are now with about 4 or 5 guys, led by the 2 guys that we just mentioned a while ago, Raquel Reed and Sanjay Seymour. Of course, you have that little male pocket rocket named Jamal Stevens from Calabar as well. What are you seeing from these guys in terms of your talent? I mean, we've all seen the emergence of Bolt, Blake, Freighter, Asafa Paul over the last two decades. Talk to me about what you're seeing from these guys, and if there's anything that reminds you of those guys when they were coming up.
Jamaica is blessed with the greatest high school track and field event on earth, champs. That is what allows us to continue to replenish the stock and to be able to produce these athletes year in, year out. And obviously there are always cycles, and we had our cycle, which we would probably consider a down cycle because Bolt and his crew got us so used to and addicted to gold medals, But Reed, everybody has a motivation, and for Reed, the motivation was making the CARIFTA team. Last year, he didn't lean at the tape. That's what he told me. He didn't lean at the tape and he missed out. And this year, when I looked back at the pictures, having had the conversation with him, you could see that exaggerated lean at the tape to ensure that nobody nipped him this time around. So he has learned his lessons and he is highly motivated. And that is why he did what he did at the CARIFTA Trials last weekend. And we can expect more from him because he's a determined athlete, and every season Excelsior produces 3 or 4 athletes that are now bucking the trend, that are now pushing aside the JCs and the KCs and the Calabars of the world and winning gold medals. So that makes champs even more exciting because it's no longer just the big 3. The other schools are doing it. And Seymour has an opportunity to do what Usain Bolt didn't do, which is to win gold at those events, because Usain was running the 400. So if he can come through and get a 100-meter gold medal, what that will do for his school and for his own record as an athlete, because he's highly motivated by the fact that he can say, I went to the same school as Usain Bolt, or I go to the same school as Usain Bolt. He has said that to me, so I know that he's highly motivated. So these two young men, along with Stevenson, who is a dynamic athlete, he's a determined athlete, he's really short, but he does not make that a hindrance. He goes out and he competes and he's a warrior. And I like that about him. So when you look at what we see coming through, it's exciting. I'm so looking forward. Champs this year is going to be exciting from day one, because you're going to want to look at the heats of the 100 meters and to see the shape that they're in going into day two when you get the 100-meter finals. And it's not just the boys, it's also the girls. And it's all 7 classes, because you have class 4 to 1 for the girls and you have 3 to 1 for the boys. So it's going to be fantastic to see the 100 meters that starts off, champs. The schedule has taken on an international feel, where you have you feel like you're watching an international event, where it's the World Championships or the Olympic Games, where you start with 100 meters and you build all the way through to the 4x4, which always closes the big meet. So, I'm excited. I'm very excited. And I think that the 100 meters will provide a lot of excitement and a lot of entertainment. So I'm encouraging people, if you're a real track and field fan of champs, get there from day one to get an eye in and to know what to look forward to on Wednesday.
The thing is, Leighton, you were asking if
Yeah, go ahead.
If they're the new generation, so the Sanjay Seymour, Merid, etc. What I notice is there are a lot of athletes that were superstars in high school at the champs level, Michael O'Hara, Kim Bluefield, even though these are people I wouldn't have seen in person because I was not in Jamaica yet, or even more recently, Nkrumah, who haven't done so much at the senior level because things happen, injuries happen, or sometimes mental. So, of course, Sanjay Seymour and all of these are exceptional talents, but I wouldn't say they are definitely going to be so great at the senior level, because so many things can happen. And sometimes the ones who do so well at the senior level were there in the finals at champs, like Shane Thompson, for instance. He was never such a big athlete.
Factor at champs,
And now he's
Asafa is another one, yeah.
as well. So
Shelly.
I hope they're the new generation. Obviously, I wish it for them, but I wouldn't say so because we can't know. It's
and you raise a very good point, because I've always said that about 1 to 3% of those kids who compete at champs actually make the transition successfully. Mentioned Akeem Bloomfield, he ran 44 at champs and he ran 43 at college, and his career didn't amount to much. I mean, injuries, of course, and other factors. So yeah, so you raise a very valid point there, and it's something that people should pay special attention to, because we all automatically assume that the minute you go to the champs and run well, you're going to become a star. It doesn't always work like that. Donald, I wanted to ask you about the matchups. Was what we saw at the CARIFTA Trials a prelude to what we can expect in 2.5 weeks from now, in terms of the matchups in the 100 and 200? And of course, there's a young man from the Bahamas as well. That's as part of that matchup. Talk to me about what you saw, and how does it translate in the next 2 weeks in terms of their respective schools?
All right. So before I give you the short answer, let me just add something to what Mel said a while ago. One of the benefits that a Sanjay Seymour has, and even a Raquel Merid, is that their schools are not chasing champs. So there's less likely to be burnout on their part as opposed to schools that are chasing champs. So maybe that's a positive impact for them. Brian Levy is a very good example of this.
Mm-hmm.
And or the other youngster from Herbert Morrison as well.
DeAndre Daly.
His name slips me. DeAndre Daly. He's another good example of that. They weren't chasing champs. And I saw DeAndre Daly, I think it was at the Gibson McCook relays, and he looked pretty good. So I'm hoping that applies to these youngsters and they can actually go on to be just as good or even better at the senior level. Short answer to your question, yes. The matchups that we saw at the CARIFTA Trials certainly should be similar to what we saw, to what we should be seeing at the championships. You look at the 100 meters, and probably outside of Jamal Stevenson, who felt something in the heats, everybody else that would have been in that final more than likely would return. So it is shaping up to be quite epic. Some persons would have won for example, at corporate champs, you might have somebody winning there, and then at CARIFTA Trials, it was the reverse. So you have people who are 1-1 in a series, looking to then get the go-ahead come champs. Emil Higgins, for example, at Kingston College, as I mentioned, the Bahamian, I think he's in the head of Kai Kelly of Jamaica College. I really hope that Kai Kelly is getting the mental assistance necessary to understand that sometimes you have to lose to win.
To win.
Because Higgins this season has looked totally different. And we were reminded a few weeks ago at Corporate Champs that he ran last year. He finished third in the 200 at Champs at class 3, but he also ran the 400 meters. And some pundits were suggesting that because of his exploits over 400 meters, we did not see the real him over 200 meters. I've not seen him run a lot of 400s this season. He's focused so much on the 200 that is going to take something super to beat him in class 2 at 200. I think it's much closer though in the 100, where Kai, for me, has a better chance of winning that 100 meters, even when you factor in the youngsters from St. Diego as well, but it is going to be such a good championships in my mind that even some of the matchups that we're expecting to see, you might see somebody out of the blue who was never factored or who was third at trials just coming to the fore. Because and a good example of this, one of the surprises in the 200 at CARIFTA Trials, so under 20 boys, was Deacon Mirage of Camperdown. He finished second behind Sanjay Seymour, ahead of the likes of Johan Ramaldo Smythe, Elijah Smykel of Jamaica College, Kyle Budden of Kingston College. So an athlete like that, right, could potentially say, hey, I'm in the mix. You jump to the 100. Nyron Wade of Kingston College, who almost made it, is another one that I'm sure when it comes to championships, it's not going to be easy to count him out, because he reminds us that when it comes on to championships, once he's injury-free, he's going to factor. And although Riquelme Reed is the out-and-out favorite, even ahead of Jamal Stevenson, even ahead of a Nyron Wade, I think that a Nyron Wade at champs could prove to be very difficult to discount. So several matchups over the sprints to come, and a lot of excitement. One of the things I would have loved to see in a repeat of per se, maybe it's not much of a big deal, but it's Natrice East and Chanoya again over 200. But they're in different classes, so we won't see that until CARIFTA games.
No, it won't. But the thing about it is that
still at the moment, but
Chanoya beat her by 9/10 of a second. That's
it was a decent win. But the reason why I want to see it is that East was much closer this time around, so I'm there's some development there, and yes, she's in a class below Chanoya, but there's some development there, and I think Natrice, who has been dominant from class 4 right up to where she is now, when she gets to class 1, maybe she is the next athlete that, her name will be echoed in halls across the island to say, yeah, man, if you're thinking about a sub 11 in the 100 or a sub 22, a sub 23.6 or a sub 23.7 in the 200, maybe her name will come up in that conversation.
Certainly, because Natrice has been exceptional at her class every year that she's been at champs. So she is also one who is coming through the system that we have to look forward to. But there's a matchup in the girls class 3, 100 meters that we can look at as well when it gets to champs.
There are a couple of things, because we're running out of time very quickly. We probably should have planned this thing for 2 hours, but but the thing is, there are a couple of guys that I want to talk about, because I don't want to overlook the importance of what I saw and what I believe I saw on Sunday. Joel Morgan, 150.05, and Malik Anderson, 150.15. The reason why I want to talk about this event is not just the times are fantastic, given what we've seen from the Nebraska Andersons and the Rivaldo Marshalls and the Tyrese Taylors for the last couple of, not from last year and the year before actually. But Malik Anderson, according to what Brian Level said to me on Sunday, only started running the 800 last year. 150.15. I don't remember what the records are at champs, but clearly these two guys who dominated on the 2800 on Sunday, because they won handsomely. When I say handsomely, I mean it was a city block and a half between them and the rest of the field. Are we likely to see 140s at champs this year, something special that will make people say, hey, we're back in the 800? Because I've spoken before on this channel about Arthur Wint and the George Carrs and the Terry Longs over the years who have come close. Well, not really come close, because Wint won silver in 48 and 52. Carr won bronze in Rome in 1960. I think Terry Long won World Indoors or something. I don't remember what it was. But we've seen an emergence or re-emergence of 800-meter talent for the last 3 or 4 years, especially over the last 3 or 4 years. Because there have been people knocking on the door, but never got much further than that. But these two guys, let me talk to you first of all, Mel, because you're from Europe, where the 800 is a big deal, has always been a big deal. You saw that race on Sunday. Your impressions?
Well, it's hard to say whether or not a champs record can be broken, because the 800 is such a strategic race. Depending on how it goes, it might be a slow one. They're really aiming for points for their school and medals. So the record really depends on how the race itself goes. But I love that event. It's really hard to predict. So it's really an interesting event, and I'm really happy that more and more, at least on the men's side, are more and more boys are doing it, whether junior or senior, and doing very well at it as well.
Dwayne, KC has brought in imported talent over the past few years to run those middle distance events. How does KC's guys match up to these two guys who are obviously going to represent Jamaica very well at the CARIFTA Games at Easter?
Ruto is the one I see as the main threat. He, this season, has run a number of 400 meters to get some speed in, and he had a very good anchor leg at the Gibson relays to help KC to win the 4x8. So I think he's in good shape, both physically and mentally, to go up and battle against these boys. And as Mel said, the 800 is very strategic. I ran that event at UA when I was there. I enjoyed it for the fact that you had to be strategic to do well in it. It's not a race that you can blast. It's not a race that you can run slow. You have to be close to the pack, and you have to figure out if you want to be a leader or tucked in behind the leaders in order to be able to go after medals in that race. So it's about strategy. And we've seen over the last few years how exciting the 800 meters have been, and people running from the back of the pack to get the win, people leading from the front and winning it. So it has become a very intriguing race because of the different nations that are now competing at champs. All the middle distance events have become very exciting, and people look forward to all of them. Even though the 5,000 meter has become a race that people look forward to, the steeplechase has become so exciting. So I look forward to what we will see at champs, and I think this 800 meter could be something very special, especially for the class 1 for boys and girls, because when you get to that level, when you get to that class, you have learned how to plan your races and how to be strategic in going after it. And I think that as a result, the class 1 boys and girls 800 meters should be something special.
So I just checked the champs record, and it's one for the class 1 boys, and it's 1:48:58. It's held by Javon Blake from Jamaica College, as well as
It's jointly held.
Right.
It's jointly
Javon
held.
Hall and Javon Blake.
Edin Allen's
Right.
Chanoya Hall, yeah.
Javon Blake, I tried to get him on an interview a few weeks ago.
Is he still running?
Spoke to him on the phone. Yeah, but look
sparingly.
Yeah, I had a conversation with him about getting him on the channel, and he said he was going to think it over and get back to me. And
So you know what that means.
Man is busy with school, man.
Yeah, he's busy with school and he's very immersed academically. So I don't know. Yeah, we'll see.
No
But
surprise. He's
what
a
do you
very,
thought?
very
You got
bright
the
boy.
two Edin Allen guys, and yeah, very, very bright. Tell me a little bit about what you think about what you saw on Sunday and what that means in terms of, what we can expect, at champs with. Yeah, I mean the KC has the talent. JC has some good guys as well. Talk to me a little bit about these two guys from Edin Allen. Are they now, based on what we've seen, the favorites or the dark horses? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, they have certainly put their hats in the ring where winning and finishing first and second is concerned over 800 meters. I know Joel Morgan, for example, has tasted medal success in 1500 meters and 800 when he was at class 2. And how he won on Sunday, I thought for him showed some amount of growth in the event. I think he approached it well, different from previous years. And if he continues along that line, he certainly could be on the top of the pile come champs. And from what I'm seeing in the top list for schools this year, I think I mentioned it on Sunday, that prior to this CARIFTA Trials final, JC with Carlos Bryson Keynes had the fastest 800-meter time this season, and it was 151 something. These two have gone below that. Checking back some of the champs results, 2025, we didn't have a sub 150 time winning. 2024, we didn't have a sub 151 winning the 800 meters. I think we might have to go back to 2022 or 2023, the last time we saw a sub 150 winning at champs. So it goes to show you that achieving a sub 150 is not an easy feat, but these guys are very close because 150.05 is not a boy time for high schoolers, especially in a Jamaican context. So the question is, can they repeat that? And given the load that they might be carrying come champs, where you might have more rounds for both 800 and 1500 meters, if that's the likely path that both athletes would take if they're doing multiple events at champs, will that load impact the time that they end up running? So that is always a question to consider. What was interesting in that race as well, that you brought it up, was the youngster from Jamaica College, Shamar Green, who eventually fell. He did finish, and there was actually a disqualification at the end of the 800. Tywin Sterling, who was dominant at class 2 last year, eventually being disqualified, along with Malik and the Snow finished second, but he was reinstated and Tywin's DQ was upheld. But what struck me about Shamar Green is the strategy that he decided to use, the latter part of the first lap, where he just started to sprint and took a little lead ahead of the field heading to the backstretch, and then he ran out of gas. And I'm thinking, based on what I saw of him before, if he were to have sat behind those three guys, the Sterling, the Morgan, and the Anderson, could have very well been a different outcome in that race, because I think if there's anybody else who was in that race that has the talent to run a sub 151 as well, would have been him. And, would have, is not something that you like to talk about because we can't see what the future holds. But at the same time, he's a talented athlete. I just thought that that approach in that 800 was very, very strange.
And that's what I speak about when I talk about strategy.
Time, but
how you run the 800 comes down to strategy. That's where you get the win, from how you pace yourself. And you also have to know how your opponents run. It's all a part of how you execute to be able to win an 800 meter at the class 1 level.
Well, I'm going to throw the deadline out the window because clearly you don't want to talk you. So let's, there are two other events I want to mention before we go. And I know we haven't gone to the lower classes, but in my mind, I'm looking at the events that really it got me excited. The 400s, for example, 45.77 to 45.87 to 45.90 from Zachary Wallace Jr. What was it? Gallimore, and Jabari Matheson. 45.77, 45.87, 45.90. Your impressions. Let's start with you again, Mel. Quickly go through, and then I want to talk about Tiana Madison 1297 because not very many women have done that at under 20 level. 8 Jamaican women have done
Marshall?
that. Marshall, sorry, what did I say? Matheson? Yeah,
Madison.
Tiana Marshall from Woolworths. Yeah, sorry. But yeah, we want to talk a little bit about 1297. But your guys' impression on the 400s,
Dwayne, you can go ahead.
I'm
not sure about that 400.
All right. Do it
Which one is
go.
that?
No, Mel's actually not sure about the 400. So let's do it and then Donald quickly.
Yeah, I don't think we're expecting the winner at this outset. I'm not sure where he's training now. I know that he's not in high school. He's actually run a really good race.
He's running unattached.
Right. Yeah, he ran the finish was what was impressive because he knew what he had in him and he brought it out over the last 50 meters to run past the people who are leading the race. And it says that he's learned to strategically execute his 400 and I'm happy for him. He looks so powerful now. He's bigger, he's stronger, and he had that really good, strong finish, which says that he is where he needs to be mentally and physically to attack a 400 meter in the way that he did. And it's learning and it's important, And in my mind, the World Under-20s is a part of his plan for this year. That's why he executed the way that he did. He'll use the CARIFTA Games as his platform to move forward the rest of his season. And we need this. We need this in Jamaica. We need more quarter milers. I don't think that our quarter mile pool is deep enough. I think we need more people who can really give us
a pool.
Some really fast times. And we've been struggling at the senior level to be able to provide enough athletes to compete at the 4x4s and at the mixed relays that have become a part of, the international events. So he helps to deepen the pool, and I'm excited about that. Obviously, his time isn't there yet, but when you look at where he is now and his potential, then certainly he's one that you will want to be looking at to come and to add to the senior level. So I'm happy for him and the way that he performed, and I certainly hope that he remains fit because he's been one who has been challenged with injuries. Pardon me. So you hope that he'll be fit and be able to have a good season.
Yeah, I kind of have mixed feelings about the 400s because, as you said, Jamaica has not had that much. I mean, Antonio Watson won in 2023, and I was really happy for that because it was the first time in 40 years that a Jamaican won a world 400 meter title. Now, since Bert Cameron back in '83 at the inception of the World Championship.
The very first one.
Yeah, so, Antonio Watson winning in what was it, 44-2, I think it was. He ran 44-11 in the semifinals. In my mind, maybe I'm asking too much. I mean, we saw Delano Kennedy last year at Worlds. In fact, I'm trying to remember the other two guys and Javon Powell as well, running 44s, which is encouraging. But 45-77, 45-87, 45-90 are encouraging signs. I probably would have been hoping for a little bit faster. Maybe that will come in 2 weeks or at the CARIFTA Games. But I'm longing for a day to see somebody. Because tell me if I'm wrong, Donald. Since Hakeem Bloomfield ran 44 champs, has another athlete run 44 champs?
Not that I can recall, no.
I can't recall that either.
Closest would have been Javon Francis before 44
Before
flat.
45 flat. Right.
45 flat, yeah.
Sorry, yeah. Before, so yeah.
We haven't had a class one athlete that special in a while, and I think that has translated to where we are now in terms of our 400 meter pool. We haven't had that breakout athlete that's giving us that, and Watson obviously has changed that for us, but we need more people that are running that fast for us to be factors in the 4x4 because everybody loves the 4x4. That's the one that's going to the championship, and you want to be a part of
There's one athlete that is no longer in high school, but Taj Marcus White, I think, could be a first to.
Was that racers now?
He will be.
Club
He will be.
So
he will be a factor. He has been prepared to become a world beater. That is a part of the plan for him based on how he's being prepared Even in high school, he could have gone back to high school. He could have gone back to Kingston College. That wasn't a part of the plan for him. So that he is being prepared to become a big man in the event young, not mid-20s, but now. I'm expecting for him to have a good season this year, and he would certainly add to the depth of a 400-meter pool. So I'm excited to see what he does, because I know that he's been putting in the work, and we can expect something special from him this season.
Yeah, there's one athlete that comes to mind that had it not been for the injuries that he has been facing for the last 2, almost 3 seasons now, could very well have been that athlete that is the one that you say, yeah, man, he's going to do well at Class 1 and then go right on to becoming a super senior athlete, and that is Nicoy Bramwell. I think when I saw him,
oh yes,
he's injured still, from what I understand. So when I
saw
him in
at
Class
Calabar
3 and Class
training,
2,
and I thought that he would, he would have been there, but I haven't seen him run. I saw him training at Calabar, but I haven't seen him run at all.
He got hurt early in the season.
Yeah, he ran a race, didn't finish. I don't remember which meet it was, and
it was a JC meet.
Yes.
He ran and got hurt on the backstretch.
So, but he's the sort of talent that, if groomed and molded well, could very much be that athlete that, almost be in the same conversation as a Taj Marcus White, for example.
I agree with you on that,
all right, guys,
because he is a special talent.
Yeah.
We have to wrap. We've gone well over now.
Leighton, I don't want you to wrap it. There's one athlete that he's not Jamaican. Track and field always causes long conversations, but this particular athlete, yeah, man, I think he deserves some mention. Addison James of Dominica, who is at Edin Allen in the javelin. This man threw 69 meters and 36 like it was nothing.
Yep.
Right? And that is a world-class throw. As a matter of fact, that ranks him in the top 10 in the world in javelin at the under 20 levels this year. What was a bit, I want to say, disappointing because things happened, is that Tariq Daly, who was in a battle with him all season last year, he has a champs record, Tariq Daly of Calabar, and he would have finished second to Addison at CARIFTA Games. And I was expecting that rivalry to be renewed in 2026, but Tariq is injured. Addison has certainly thrown down the gauntlet, well, almost 3 meters well over the champs record. That athlete, yeah, man, we have, I think in the Caribbean, we could say that from the Eastern Caribbean side of things, representation in the javelin is concerned, this is a continuation in that trend.
Yeah,
and that at champs last year, the final day, that is what started the excitement, because that javelin, it was so exciting, and the winner won with his last throw. They were throwing the champs record. They were exchanging the champ records.
Like that?
They were exchanging the champ records during the course of the thing. It was so exciting to watch. And when you're down there on in the thick of things, right there watching it, and you see them going after it against each other, you're like, wow. I mean, champs, boy, I tell you, so when you're there, it's you can't describe it. You just have to be there to experience it.
On Sunday, I was talking to Julian Robinson. He was sitting behind the javelin throwing area and under an umbrella. Actually, Mel came up to me after while we were talking about it. He had just mentioned Addison. And then he pops out this massive throw. So, for real. And of course, I've mentioned Alexia Henry as well from Edin Allen, who ran up to the semifinal. But of course, she's not in the final because she's from Trinidad and Tobago. But the final thing I want to mention tonight is a young lady who I think continues to deepen what has been a deepening pool in Jamaica for a number of years now. Akira Nugent, Megan Simmons, Brittany Anderson, who is making a return after motherhood, Daniel Williams. We had Janique Brown, who has disappeared from existence.
Janique Thompson,
Onika Wilson, of course, 4 times ACC champion this year. And of course, she's going to World Indoors.
That's remarkable.
Tiana Marshall, 1297. at an under 20 level is a rare feat. Only 8 Jamaican girls who've ever done that. And overall, I think the United States has 15 people who've ever done it. But beyond that, only Cuba has had athletes.
Has
2.
more.
Cuba has 2, Jamaica has 8, the United States has 15, and Dwayne gone again. But this for me is a special performance, and I mean, we've seen her talent over the years, you know. So, yeah, Mel, your thoughts first, and then Don, and then we can wrap, because I don't know Dwayne go about in business.
I think Dwayne's at MVP, right? Like Gary Card was doing last year while still being in high school. But yeah, this season has been really impressive for her. She was so happy at corporate champs after she ran, what was it, 11.8, to win the 100-meter class 1. So her speed has also improved. She seems very confident. Her hurling is amazing. So I don't think she has much competition, to be honest, in her class. But
no, there's none.
But I'm looking forward, regardless, to see how fast she will go.
I don't think she has any in the Caribbean, actually, not just Jamaica. I think unless something untoward happens in Grenada, I think she wins that comfortably as well. But Donald, I mean, she is obviously special. Of course, you know, we're talking, Habiba Harris is hurt and was out for the season. You know, I think she's not under 20 anymore. Yeah, but she's, but the thing about it is that she still is. Yeah, but
I don't think so. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know if she is still under 20, but we can confirm.
Yeah, I can confirm that. But well, I know she's hurt. She's out for the year. She got hurt at the Tyson meet, the first Tyson meet this year, I think it is. So she's out she could be out for the rest of the year. I don't think they've made a final decision on it yet, but she's not healthy.
Yeah, she's 20 now.
Yeah, she's 20. Okay, so but this girl Tiana is something special, isn't she?
Yeah, man, certainly. I think that her hurdling has even, I think, improved compared to last year as well, where she did win in class 2. I think her closest challenger, probably Brianna Davidson of St. Jago, I believe, and Akila Bell, her own teammate. You know, but she's in a class by herself. And as I mentioned, going below the 13-second barrier, what is always amazing is that there are a lot of collegiate sprint hurdlers who have never gone below that 13-second barrier. And it's the same height. It's a woman's height. So to go 12.97 and you see other much older athletes struggling to get below that 13-second barrier suggests that the trajectory that she's on is quite a good one. And I think that Jamaica has been blessed over the years, and you gave a list of some of the current and past athletes, well, mostly current athletes in the sprint hurdles that we have blessed with. But when you go back through time, there's so many.
Bridget,
Bridget,
Lassina, Golden, Clark,
so many.
What's her name? Rose. What's her name? But we have a long.
There's so many, right? And the reason why I bring that up, I think, is a similar thing with the women's flat sprints, in that there is a consistent supply of talent to the market, similar with the sprint hurdles. That is what we need for the quarter mile, to go back to that particular argument.
Again.
But I mean, Tiana Marshall is on a good path, and that 12.97, you know, certainly she must feel even more confident going into champs. And it would be for her just execution, because she knows she already has the speed. So it's just about executing at champs and running out even faster time.
You have Alexis James, who is so special as well, who trains at Racers Track Club. We haven't seen much from her because she's been struggling with so much injuries, but I still think she could do something special at the senior level once she sorts out these issues.
Alexis,
she finished second to
Michael?
I'm not sure, but she ran on Saturday at GC, and she finished second to CARIFTA Hill.
Yeah, I saw that on the weekend. What were you saying, Mel? I mean, I know she had enrolled at Michael.
Yeah, I'm not sure if she's
University.
finished yet.
Not sure if she's finished.
Yeah, because I know she was out for a while. Because I remember asking about her last year, and I was told that she was having some challenges, not just physical challenges. And so, I was kind of hoping, because she was a talent as well. You saw her.
Yeah.
She finished second to Karika Hill at the World Under 20 Championships.
Correct.
Was it
Cali,
2022?
I think it's Cali, yeah, 2022.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's 2022.
Was it-
Yeah. And then because I remember she had gone to there was an event at Michael where they were announcing a
Handing over a
sponsorship
scholarship.
for her. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
I'd gone
remember
to
that.
that. And that was the last time I remember seeing her before this year. So yeah, maybe it's time for her to come back and doing what she does, because she's a talent as well. But guys, we gotta go. It's an hour and 15 minutes in. I wanted this thing to last about 40 minutes, but hey, you can't never talk about track and field in 40
Trust me.
minutes. So what I'd love to do, guys, is that as it gets closer to champs, we'll have like a champs preview where we can look at some of the events that would be worthwhile going to see. Mel, I'd like to have you back.
Sure.
Right? With our earrings and everything, looking all fashionable and everything. And yeah, but for real, so I'm just telling listeners, of course, remember to subscribe to the channel, like and share our content. We're planning a pre-champs show maybe in the next, today's what, the
Right.
10th?
Yeah, it's sense.
So maybe on the 20th? Maybe 4 days before champ starts, we can probably do something, guys. If your calendars are free, let me know so we can arrange something. Dwayne, I know you're not here, but you're here in spirit. But we'll talk soon. So, of course, guys, thanks again for joining us. And, of course, we will be back soon with more here on the Mr. Analyst channel. So, until then, have a great time enjoying track and field across the world. We'll come back and talk some more about it. Very, very short. You see, I'm getting tongue-tied now. Short time from now. Until then, bye-bye.